Before we jump into this video, I want to set this up properly. What you're about to watch is a section taken from one of our live ProCoach certification trainings. And in this clip, I am teaching one of the most important distinctions a coach can understand. Because most coaches think that the breakthrough is the win. The client cries, they have this realization, they finally see the pattern, and they say something along the lines of like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. And as a coach, that can feel amazing. Now, here's the uncomfortable question. What happens when that same client comes back next week and nothing has changed? They understand themselves better, but they still avoid the conversation. They know what they need to do, but they still don't do it. They've had the insight, but the behavior hasn't shifted. And for me personally, this is one of the biggest gaps inside the coaching industry, because insight can feel like transformation, but insight alone does not automatically create the new supporting behaviors and habits. So in this video, I'm going to be taking you through what I've identified as the 4 different layers of coaching, because not every client problem exists at the same depth. Some clients need strategy. Some clients need some emotional clarity. Some clients need structure and accountability. But the deepest work happens when the client stops asking, how do I solve this problem? And start asking, who would I have to become for this to stop being a problem? That's where coaching truly becomes transformational. So as you watch this, don't just listen to the information. Listen for the level that you naturally coach at. Listen for where your clients may be getting stuck, and listen for the difference between helping someone feel better about their life and helping someone change the trajectory of their life. Let's get into it. I want to tell you about a client. Actually, I'll tell you a story about a client. And this client, I was working with a few years ago. Now, on paper, they were a great client, or they were a great person, and they're exactly the type of client that I think every coach wants. They were intelligent, they were self-aware, they read books, they journaled, they were like doing seminars, and they were attending seminars, they're doing all this sort of stuff, they're traveling around making it happen. They could explain their childhood, probably better than most therapists could explain their childhood, and they had like so many breakthroughs. Like they were having breakthrough after breakthrough after breakthrough. And I remember like feeling to myself, like every session felt powerful. Like some sessions there was an emotional release. Some sessions there were just like these realizations and sort of like, popcorn sort of popping moments, which were beautiful. And there were these moments where they would just sort of like sit back and, if you've had this moment with your client, you know what I'm talking about. You know that moment where they sit back a little bit and they're like, oh man, like that just makes so much sense. And like that blind spot that they've been sort of like tinkering with for, weeks, months, or years, it finally comes into light and they go, oh, like, it just makes so much sense. And as a coach, those were the sessions that I loved. And I loved them because they were the ones that felt successful. You know the ones I mean, right? Like the ones where like your client, they leave, they're filled with gratitude, like they're feeling lighter, they're more hopeful, they're more aware. And then the next week, it's the same session. You know what I mean when I say it's the same session? So they come to you, they have all the breakthroughs, they have a release, they have a realization. And then next week, nothing changed. Like the pattern that they're now aware of, it still showed up. They still avoided having the difficult conversation. They still avoided making decisions, or they were still delaying decisions. And they continued to break commitments to themselves. Shane, I think you might be unmuted, mate. Just hearing a few little things in the background. I'm going to leave you with it. Yeah, bada bing, bada boom. And yeah, they kept breaking the commitments that they made for themselves. They'd still procrastinate on things that they knew that they mattered most. You've ever had a client like that, by the way, where it's like they know what to do, and you're like, you get to the point where like you almost want to shake them. What are you waiting for? Just go and do the thing. Or it's like, well, hey, like we went over the steps, like we went over like the 1, 2, 3 together, and so like, I mean, now you know the 1, 2, 3. So like, oh yeah, but I just feel there's something else holding me back. Yeah, I don't know about that. Maybe you should just do the 1, 2, 3. Like maybe you should just go ahead and put into action what you already know that you should be doing. And so I think as any good coach does, you go deeper. And so we definitely went deeper. We went deeper, we explored more, we uncovered more emotions, we found more meanings. And each week there was more breakthrough. Each week there was more relief. And again, there was no real change. Eventually, this client said something to me that it kind of bothered me. And I say it kind of bothered me, but like it really bothered me. And they said to me, like, Tony, like, I think that I don't need like another realization. Like, I think I just need to become someone who actually does what I already know. And that sentence, like that one sentence, oh man, that got me obsessed. But like that one sentence, it forced me to confront something that was uncomfortable. Because the client, they didn't have like a knowledge problem. They didn't have like a healing problem. Like it wasn't that. They had a structure of self problem. And what I mean by that is like their their awareness was growing, but their capacity wasn't. And that's when I realized that like I was coaching with good intensity, but I was just coaching at the wrong depth. Like I was there helping them understand themselves, but I wasn't necessarily helping them to become different. Maybe make note on this. Insight does not automatically create behavior. And behavior doesn't stabilize until an identity supports it. Is this landing for everybody, or have we gone like too deep too quick? If we've gone too deep too quick, just type in the chat screen for me deep, and you're like, nah, Tony, I'm not Egyptian, but I do understand Egyptian hieroglyphics. So if you just put in the W, like if you put into the chat screen for me like WTF, I'll be able to like decrypt that, and I'll be able to sort of slow it down a little bit. Oh yeah, okay, if it's landing, okay, great. Yeah, type in the chat screen for me landing, and we sort of kick off from there. Okay, cool, great, fantastic. The insight is like to write it down again, repeat. I got you. Which, by the way, you're all coaches. You know what I'm talking about. It comes once, okay? So yeah, like it comes once. Like if somebody else type it out the chat screen. Like I'm not going to be able to like pull it out like that. That's just the way that it goes. What that taught me, right? That insight does not automatically create behavior, and that behavior isn't stabilized until the identity supports it. What that taught me, like in that moment, is that some coaching helps people feel better about their life. I think we've all had coaching like that, or I think probably we've given coaching like that. While other coaching changes the trajectory of their life. And so what I had to have this distinction on is that I wasn't working on the part of them that was running their life. Like some coaching helps people understand themselves, and other coaching helps people become someone new. And what I eventually came to realize was that the coaching wasn't failing. We were just trying to create change at the wrong level of the person. Because not all problems exist at the same depth. Do you guys know what I mean when I say that? Like not all problems, like some problems are like surface level problems, there's some deeper problems. And so not all coaching reaches the same depths. And once you see this, you can't unsee it. There's actually a progression to how human beings make change. And I've sort of been playing around with this a little bit, and I'm sort of calling it like the tapestry of transformation, because it is a tapestry. And you need to know which string to pull. And it's kind of like your shoelaces. Noah Falau, you get a shout out because you got the same name as my daughter, like NOA as well. But it's kind of like your shoelaces, right? Like like sometimes like you pull on you're like, I want to undo my shoelaces, and then you pull on like a piece of the shoelace, and then the knot gets tighter, and you go, damn it. Okay, Lisbeth has done that. Fantastic. Has anybody else ever done? Okay, maybe you've seen a kid do that. Okay, great. Yeah, this is why I wear Velcro, and it's why I wear boots. Okay, that's why I wear Velcro, and that's why I wear boots. So, but in all seriousness, you just need to know what string to pull. Many clients, they don't need more motivation. They just need a self that can carry the life they're trying to live. I'll say that again. Clients, they don't need more motivation. They just need a self that can carry the life that they're trying to live. So let me illustrate that for you. We're going to need one of these. The first layer of coaching is, like, I would refer to it as like advice. I would refer to it as strategy coaching. Here over the next 3 days, we're going to refer to it as situational coaching. It's situational coaching. And situational coaching, it really is like the first level or the first layer of coaching. And this, like, really, this is where like most coaching conversations start. Like the client, they bring to you problems, and the problems kind of sound like, like, how do I handle this conversation? Or how do I handle this particular thing that I'm dealing with right now? And it's kind of ad hoc coaching. They ask, what should I do with this client? Or how do I get more leads? And so like at the situational layer, you're sort of helping them solve today's problems. That's kind of like what you're doing, right? And so here, like, I help you solve problems, and it works. The client leaves, they leave with a plan, they feel clearer, and sometimes they even get a result. But like a week later, they just come back to you with like a same but different. Right? Like it's a different problem appears. And the reason a different problems appear is because we didn't change the person, we just changed the situation. So we help them like get out of a jam, or we help them put out that fire. We sort of just help them get by. Is everyone getting a good feel for like situational coaching? Yeah, fantastic. Okay, right. Write this sentence down for me in terms of like situational coaching. It's advice that provides an outcome. That's what situational coaching is, but it doesn't change the patterns. It doesn't change the patterns. And so is there a place for situational coaching? Yeah. You're going to hear me say, probably even throughout these 3 days together, hey, like, what are we working on? Hey, like, what brings you here? Like, hey, like, what's the thing? And I'm going to be trying to get a landscape, or I'm trying to get a scope of like what's happening like right here and now, right? And it'll be situational coaching. Now, the second layer above situational coaching and like what's going on in the environment and the situation is, in fancy sort of like jargonized terms, I would call it remedial coaching. You might refer to it as psychological coaching, but for me, like, we'll call it remedial. This is the next layer. So here we're now going beyond the situation, because you guys know, like, coaching, it naturally goes deeper. And so now the client, they're coming to you with a different problem. Like, they now know what they need to do, but I just don't feel confident to do it. Oh, Tony, like 10 minutes ago, you said, like, go and do the post. Yeah, I'm just kind of scared to do that, though. Tony, like, I remember you said, like, I should go and do that. Yeah, I'm just not feeling confident about that. I'm not feeling confident. Maybe like there's some self-doubt that sort of comes in at this level. And that's where we're going to use remedial coaching or psychological coaching. Here, you want to help the client with problems, and the way you help them is like with beliefs. Like, you're definitely going to work with beliefs. Here, you're going to work with emotions. You're going to uncover new meanings. And this is very powerful. This is a very powerful layer to be in, by the way. Here, the client feels understood. They feel relieved. They feel lighter. But then something strange happens. Now they understand themselves and still don't do the thing. This is the worst place to be. It's the worst place to be. It's kind of like having a life that's kind of like a 6 or a 7 out of 10. You know what I mean? Like, I would much rather be, like, if you're in a relationship right now that's like a 6 or a 7 out of 10, you know that it could be better. You know that, like, there's probably deeper levels of intimacy. You know that the relationship could reach a new depth. You know that, like, you feel it, you sense it, but it's not a 1 out of 10. So it's not painful enough for you want to do something about it. You guys picking up what I'm putting down when I say that? And that's why this is the worst place to be, because this is where you get stuck. You'll get stuck with the intelligence, or you'll get stuck with knowing, but you won't have the pain the same way that you used to. And so you won't be motivated enough to do something about it. Personally, give me a 1 out of 10 situation. Like, think about that best friend of yours that you've had, or maybe you've been in this situation and maybe, I don't know, maybe they broke up. And what happens the moment that somebody breaks up? They move out, they change house, they change location, they start going to the gym, they eat better, they lose 5 kilos, they're happier. Their whole life changes. Like, give me a 1 out of 10 out of a 6 or a 7 out of 10 any day of the week. Or be brave enough to go the rest of the way. Write this down for me. Insight reduces pain, but it doesn't reliably produce action. This is where I say it's the worst place to be, because it's where most people get stuck. I know what to do, I just don't do it. That's remedial coaching. The next layer up is different, because now we know what we need to do, but we're not doing it. And so you can probably predict that the next layer up is behavioral coaching or performance coaching. We'll call it behavioral. And this is where performance coaching lives, by the way, because here we go deeper. Here the conversation changes from the client who says, like, I know what to do, I just don't do it. This is not a belief problem anymore. It's a reliability problem. And so here I help the client with something different. Like, here, this is where we will introduce things like non-negotiables. This is where we'll introduce accountability. This is where we'll introduce structure. And now something important happens. At this level, the client starts to follow through. Now we get follow through. But it requires effort. And that effort sucks. I'm forcing myself to do things. I'm forcing myself to do the post. I can share with you now. There was definitely a time in my life where I forced myself to go to the gym. Has anybody ever done that before? I used to see people who would like post on social media and they were like, oh, like the gym's like my day spa. I'm like, you're a psychopath. What do you mean the gym's your day spa? What do you mean you feel weird if you don't go to the gym? Like, come on, like if I've got to drag myself there, you know what I mean? Like it's hard. Like I drive myself to the gym. I would sit in my car for 10 minutes and it get to the point where I'm like, Tony, like if you don't go in there now, you know, like what did you drive all the way here for? Right? And so it was really hard. And that's how it can be in your business, by the way. I've got to force myself to do the post. I've got to force myself to do that chat sequencing. I've got to force myself to do that follow. I've got to force myself to get that tiny challenge offer. I've got to force myself to do all those things. There is a light at the end of the tunnel with that. A flip, like a flip does switch. A switch does flip. It happens. Yeah, I enjoy the gym now. I've turned into a psychopath. I'm like, actually, you know what? I'm looking forward to going for one of those runs. I'm looking forward to, you know, maybe lifting some weights. I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, that's a good thing. At this level, the client follows through, but the discipline of following through, it feels heavy. And so the moment that life gets stressful, they revert back. It's the things that sort of drop off straight away. You guys know what I mean when I say that? It's like, well, hey, yeah, I couldn't do this thing because I couldn't go to the gym today because I couldn't do that post. I couldn't serve that client. I couldn't do that thing because, and they'll revert back to the old pattern, or they'll revert back to the whole behavior. This is important. You need to know this about performance coaching, or you need to know this about behavioral coaching. Behavior can be trained. It can be trained. It doesn't stabilize, though, until the identity supports it. And that's where the switch flips. When the identity supports it, the switch, it flips. It's different. And now we start moving into what we'll refer to as identity coaching. I would also share with you that identity coaching, another term for identity coaching is generative. Generative coaching. Generative coaching it's a belief system, first and foremost. And it's a belief system that I'd really love for you to get curious about, and maybe even hold at the very top inside of your beliefs. Generative coaching is to say that my client is okay, that my client has capacity. Generative coaching is to say that I'm not here to necessarily fix my client. What I am here to do is I'm here to provide a pathway for them to try and go ahead and fix themselves. You guys picking up what I'm putting down when I say that? Yeah. And for me personally, when it comes to my philosophy inside coaching, this is key or core to those philosophies. If you have a belief system that everyone's broken and it's your job to fix them, it's going to fall over real quick. Which, by the way, if that is your belief system right now, that's okay. You probably just didn't know about generative coaching. So hold generative coaching at the top, because this is the most important level and most people don't realize it exists. This is coaching at the identity level. Most coaches, they coach here. Let me help you feel better about your emotions. Let me make sure you do what you said you were going to do. Sound familiar? Yeah, probably. Yeah, because this is the space that a lot of us are coaching in, for sure. For sure. And there'll be situational coaching as well. I said, I engage in situational coaching. I engage in all layers of coaching. There's not a bad layer. It's where you need to meet the client at. But if we hold a meta perspective view that I want to get them to the identity level, or if I can help them move towards the identity level and use generative coaching, that's where the permanent results are going to land. Here at generative coaching, the question is no longer like, how do we solve the problem? Like that doesn't exist anymore. Like, oh, how do I solve this problem? How do I do this? How do I do that? The question, it transcends and it becomes better. Here, the question becomes, who would I have to be for this to stop being a problem? Who would I have to be for this to stop being a problem? And here we're going to help the client to have that problem stop appearing for them. So we'll start working with values. We'll start working with standards of self. We'll start working with personal authority. Here we start looking at autonomy and personal agency. Here we work on self-trust. And here something magic happens. The client here, they don't need motivation anymore. The behavior becomes natural because now it matches who they believe they are. The behavior becomes natural because now it matches who they are. I appreciate the timing of my marathon announcement sort of lined up with the calendar of like New Year's. And there was a lot of people who made New Year's resolutions. I'm going to do this. I'm going to make that. I'm going to make this thing happen. Oh my gosh. Now, if you look at the statistics, I think statistically speaking, 98% of people fail their New Year's resolution before January 8th. So it lasts a little over a week before they break those promises to themselves, right? And that's just statistically speaking. In order for me to decide that I was going to run a marathon, it took about 2.5, 3 years, no joke. There were times that I definitely flirted with like signing up to make it happen. The reason, like I'm in week 5 of marathon training right now. I've been doing close to 30 kilometers a week, different runs and different programs and all this sort of stuff to make it happen. It hasn't been, it's been very enjoyable. And again, you might think I'm one of those sick people from the gym right now, or one of those psychopaths. Oh, I'm not. It's because my identity supports me being a marathon runner. You guys picking up what I'm putting down when I say that? This could be the most important note you make throughout the entire 3 days. So please write this down. When identity changes, discipline stops feeling like discipline.